Have you ever stood on the edge of an airport runway and watched in awe as a colossal aircraft thundered past you, the ground shaking beneath your feet, the engines roaring like controlled explosions of power? For a brief moment, it feels like time stops, and you realize you're witnessing something extraordinary. That's the feeling only one aircraft can truly give, the Boeing 747, the queen of the skies. A legend of engineering and imagination that not only conquered the heavens but forever changed the way humanity travels. Welcome back to Airborne Atlas, where we bring you the stories that shaped aviation history and celebrate the aircraft that connected our world. If you love airplanes, innovation, and stories that define our skies, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because today, we're exploring the incredible journey of the Boeing 747, from its ambitious beginnings to its enduring legacy that continues to inspire millions. The Boeing 747 isn't just another aircraft. It is a symbol of human progress, of courage and risk, and of the relentless desire to make the world smaller. It's a story about an impossible dream, a dream so big that even Boeing, one of the most powerful aviation companies in the world, almost didn't survive it. But they did. And in doing so, they created one of the most remarkable engineering achievements in history. Let's go back to the early 1960s. Air travel was booming. The jet age had begun, and aircraft like the Boeing 707 and the Douglas DC-8 were revolutionizing long-distance travel. But the world wanted more. Airlines were growing rapidly, airports were expanding, and global travel was no longer a novelty, it was becoming a necessity. Leading this new era was Pan American World Airways, better known as Pan Am, a name synonymous with luxury and adventure. Pan Am's visionary founder, Juan Trippe, had a bold idea. He wanted an aircraft twice the size of the 707, capable of carrying hundreds of passengers across oceans efficiently. He wanted something that could make air travel affordable for everyone. When Trippe approached Boeing with this vision, the company knew it was a challenge unlike any other. But Boeing had never been one to back down from a challenge. They took it head-on, and in 1965, the project officially began. It was designated as the Boeing 747. The world had no idea that what was about to emerge would forever redefine what an airplane could be. To lead this daring project, Boeing turned to an extraordinary engineer, Joe Sutter. Sutter, known for his brilliance and practical approach, was tasked with creating a jet that was bigger, faster, and more efficient than anything before it. He assembled a team of more than 50,000 engineers, designers, and builders, later nicknamed the Incredibles for achieving what many believed to be impossible. The timeline was tight, the budget was massive, and the stakes were higher than ever. The 747 had to be revolutionary. It needed entirely new engines, new materials, and new technology. Boeing worked with Pratt & Whitney to develop the JT9D, the world's first high-bypass turbofan engine, capable of delivering immense thrust while improving fuel efficiency. The design of the aircraft itself broke every rule. It was over 230 feet long, with a wingspan of nearly 200 feet, and stood as tall as a six-story building. No commercial airplane had ever been this massive. And then there was the hump, the iconic upper deck that would become the 747's trademark. Contrary to popular belief, the hump wasn't created for luxury. Boeing initially believed that the 747 might eventually serve as a cargo plane once supersonic jets took over passenger travel. So, the cockpit was raised above the main fuselage to allow a nose door to open for freight loading. What began as a practical feature turned into an iconic design, giving the 747 its unmistakable silhouette. But Boeing didn't stop at functionality. Inside, they created an experience that was pure magic. Early versions of the 747 included spiral staircases, spacious lounges, and even bars where passengers could enjoy drinks mid-flight. For the first time in history, flying felt luxurious, glamorous, and accessible. Airlines began to market the 747 as a flying palace, a place where comfort met adventure at 35,000 feet. However, behind the beauty and innovation, there was chaos. The project faced endless technical issues. The engines were unreliable during testing, delays piled up, and costs skyrocketed. Boeing had to build an entirely new facility to produce the aircraft, the Everett plant in Washington. It became the largest building by volume on Earth, and even then, workers struggled to complete it in time. At one point, Boeing was borrowing nearly $1 million a day just to stay afloat. If the 747 failed, it would mean financial ruin for the company. But Boeing's team refused to give up. Day and night, engineers and factory workers poured their hearts into the project. And finally, on February 9, 1969, their dream took flight. The first Boeing 747 soared into the sky from Everett, Washington. Watching it lift off was a moment of pure triumph. The Queen of the Skies was alive. In 1970, Pan Am introduced the Boeing 747 into commercial service on the New York to London route. Passengers were stunned. The aircraft was quieter, smoother, and far more comfortable than anything before it. It could carry over 400 passengers and travel more than 5,000 miles non-stop. For the first time, long-haul travel became available to the masses. Families could afford to cross oceans. Students could study abroad. Businesses could expand across continents. The world suddenly felt smaller. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the Boeing 747 became a cultural icon. It was the flagship aircraft of major airlines like British Airways, Lufthansa, Qantas, Japan Airlines, and United. Wherever you traveled, you saw the mighty 747, its distinctive hump gliding above the clouds. It became the symbol of progress and globalization. The 747 was also the choice of presidents and royalty. When the United States government selected the Boeing 747 as the new Air Force One, it became more than a plane, it became a flying symbol of leadership and power. The sight of the blue and white presidential 747 landing anywhere in the world was instantly recognizable, representing the strength and reach of America. Behind the glamour, though, was pure engineering brilliance. The 747's wings were designed with advanced aerodynamics, allowing efficient flight even at high weights. Its landing gear, a complex arrangement of 5 sets of wheels, distributed its massive weight perfectly, enabling it to use existing runways. The cockpit introduced new systems and redundancies that would later influence future generations of aircraft. Every detail of the 747 reflected precision, innovation, and safety. As decades passed, Boeing continued to improve the 747. The 747-200 brought increased range and performance. The 747-300 introduced a stretched upper deck, allowing more passengers and better amenities. Then, in the late 1980s, Boeing unveiled the 747-400, the most famous and successful version of all. Equipped with advanced avionics, winglets, and more efficient engines, the 747-400 became the workhorse of long-haul travel. For airlines, it was reliable, profitable, and beloved by pilots and passengers alike. But innovation never stops. In the 2000s, Boeing introduced the 747-8, the largest and most advanced variant ever built. With new generation engines inspired by the 787 Dreamliner and a redesigned wing structure, it offered improved fuel economy, lower noise, and greater capacity. The 747-8 marked the pinnacle of the aircraft's evolution, a modern giant carrying a legendary name. Yet, even legends faced the end of their reign. As fuel prices rose and technology advanced, twin-engine wide-body jets like the Boeing 777 and the Airbus A350 became more practical. They could fly just as far as the 747 while burning less fuel and carrying nearly as many passengers. Airlines began to retire their aging 747 fleets. The end of an era had begun. Each retirement ceremony was emotional. Pilots described the 747 as a dream to fly, powerful, elegant, and perfectly balanced. Cabin crew members shared stories of their years on board, serving thousands of passengers and crossing the world countless times. Aviation enthusiasts gathered to watch the final flights, waving flags and shedding tears as the Queen of the Skies made her last takeoff. In 2023, after more than 50 years of continuous production, Boeing delivered the final 747, a 747-8 freighter built for Atlas Air. It was the 1,574th 747 ever made. As it rolled out of the Everett factory for the last time, workers lined the floor, watching silently. Some smiled proudly, others couldn't hold back tears. For many, the 747 wasn't just a machine, it was a part of their lives, their identity, their legacy. But the story doesn't end there. Even though production has stopped, the Boeing 747 continues to serve the world in many roles. Hundreds still fly as cargo aircraft, carrying goods across continents. Some have been converted into firefighting planes or scientific observatories. NASA used a modified 747 to carry the Space Shuttle. The aircraft's design was so ahead of its time that even decades later, it remains one of the most capable platforms ever built. The legacy of the 747 goes beyond engineering. It represents what humanity can achieve when vision meets determination. It turned the impossible into reality. It connected people who might never have met otherwise. It made travel not just faster, but more human, allowing the world to share cultures, ideas, and dreams. For generations, children grew up watching the 747 take off, dreaming of becoming pilots, engineers, or travelers. It wasn't just an airplane, it was a symbol of adventure, of reaching higher, of daring to dream. It taught us that innovation requires courage and that true greatness comes from taking risks. Joe Sutter, the man behind the masterpiece, once said, "When I designed the 747, I wanted to make something that would stand the test of time." And he did. The Boeing 747 didn't just stand the test of time, it defined it. For over 5 decades, it ruled the skies with grace and power, and its legacy will live on for centuries to come. So, the next time you see a Boeing 747, whether parked at a museum or gliding high above the clouds, take a moment to appreciate what it represents: human ingenuity, unity, and the dream of flight. The Queen of the Skies may have passed her crown to newer models, but no aircraft will ever capture hearts the way she did. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Airborne Atlas, and turn on the notification bell. Because here, we celebrate aviation history, the triumphs, the risks, and the machines that took humanity beyond the horizon. Tell us in the comments below, have you ever flown on a Boeing 747? What did that experience mean to you? We'd love to hear your memories, and who knows, your story might just appear in our next video. This is Airborne Atlas, signing off, reminding you that every great flight begins with a dream, and the dream that built the Boeing 747 will forever soar through the skies.